Alright lads, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Char-25T. The 25T stands for 25 ton tank, a post-war French design, obviously limiting the tonnage of the vehicle, I assume for bridge limits and ease of transportation. 25 tons is quite light. The British Centurion, for example, is double the weight at 50 tons. So in many ways the Char-25T is kind of like a light medium tank, if that makes sense. It has the armour and survivability of a light tank, but with the firepower of a medium. This gives the French a little bit of a hybrid gameplay, to be honest. As you'll see from the rest of the video, this tank is very good in my opinion. But before we get into all that, let's cover some basics. The Char-25 is a rank 4 vehicle in the French tech tree, sitting at battle rating 7.3 for arcade, realistic and simulator. To unlock the tank, you're going to have to grind out 71,000 research points, which isn't too bad to be honest, and it's quite a powerful vehicle. You also have to unlock it for silver lions for the cost of 2,000 and 10,000 silver lions. All in all though, quite a modest vehicle to unlock and purchase, especially for the firepower which you get with it. Being a tech tree vehicle, it will obviously come stock, so you will have to spade the tank, so you will have to grind quite a lot to unlock its full potential. To put the tank in on lineup, it's going to cost you 61,000 silver lions, again not too bad, and for the expert and ace qualification, it's 2,000 and 10,000 silver lions for the expert quali, and 890 golden eagles for the ace quali. Considering that this tank is auto-loading, the expert qualification isn't a must, but it does help you with repair time, so I would still recommend it. So with the tank's fairly high mobility and a very powerful gun and ammunition, is the French 7.3 lineup still quite meta? Especially with the semi-recent edition of the M82 nuke shell, does it give France a strong meta in the 7.3 sphere of influence? Well, if you'd like to know the answer to that question lads, stick around for the rest of the video. But before we get started, I'd like to give a warm welcome to a new sponsor of the channel, Godzilla. He says he won't destroy your city and or town, village or house if you subscribe to the SAKO Sniper YouTube channel. How convenient. Anyway, if you value your house and personal property, be sure to follow the channel. Alright lads, welcome back. The tank is powered by an engine-producing 500 horsepower. Combined with the vehicle's weight of, you guessed it, 25 tons, it gives us at battle rating 7.3 a tank with a power-to-weight ratio of 19.7 horsepower per ton. As I was saying, this gives this French vehicle more of a light tank performance or light tank mobility, and we also have a light tank top speed. So it's worth mentioning that this vehicle has a dual gearbox really. You can go as fast forward as you can in reverse, giving you a top speed of 65 km per hour in both directions. I could make a joke about French surrendering and retreating, but I'll let the French go this once. Anyway, top speed of 65 km per hour is very respectable. I will say though, the acceleration of the Char, it's quite average despite having a pretty high power to weight ratio. It's around the same level of acceleration as a BMP-1. So from going from 0 km per hour up to 20, it's kind of slow, but then it gets really fast after that. It's not like an XM1 where you just have unlimited acceleration really. So while it does have light tank top speed and mobility, it's still a bit sluggish at very low speeds. Regardless though, it is one of the more agile tanks, and its mobility is certainly a factor in actually getting kills and getting good positions on the battlefield. Many content creators, including myself, do say that mobility is one of the most important factors on a tank. But what about the survivability? Well, I've mentioned several times that it's kind of like a light tank mobility, and I did say in the introduction it's got light tank survivability and light tank armor as well. So we take a look at this cross section, we can see that we have a driver in the front of the vehicle, and then a gunner, loader and commander located in the turret. The first thing to point out is that the turret is very cramped. You've got your ammunition in the bustle next to the commander, and all three crew are just basically sat on each other's knees. So a round going into the turret, even if it's a small high explosive round like a 57mm, it's almost certainly going to one-shot this vehicle. So in terms of survivability, it's pretty awful to be honest. But then take a quick look at the armour, and both the lower frontal plate and upper frontal plate are both 50mm thick of steel, so just under 2 inches. It's worth noting though that when you're looking at the front of the vehicle, the left hand side is like the engine bay, and this is only 30mm thick. So the majority of your upper frontal plate is only 30mm thick really, with a little sliver to the right being 50mm. So obviously not amazing, but in the grand scheme of things, that 20 extra millimeters of steel probably wasn't going to stop a 7.3 tank gun. Anyway, moving up to the oscillating turret, the lower part of the turret, the flat part, that is only 30mm thick as well, kind of like the Samoa turret. And then if we move up towards the top of the tank, the rest of the turret is 50mm thick. The top of the turret is quite well sloped however, but it's not really going to give you any sort of protection, at best about 3.5 inches 90mm. So again, it's not really going to do much. And to show you just how little protection you have on this tank, I'm going to show you its penetration characteristics against the ZSU 57-2 with its 57mm APC-BC shell at a range of 100 meters. And you can see from this penetration map, basically everywhere on the tank will be penetrated by this gun. While the ZSU 57 is famous for being a bit of... It's very lethal, but it's only really lethal from the sides to most main battle tanks. But for the Char-25, pretty much everywhere apart from the right-hand side of the upper frontal plate is an easy penetration. The armor protection is a little bit better against vehicles like the Mardas, the A1A2 and the A1A3. But against anything with a 30mm cannon, it's pretty much an easy penetration. Never mind the gun from a 105 or a 100mm tank gun. So yeah, it's fast with no armor. Basic French stuff really. But what about the firepower? Well, to start, this gun is the 90mm D911 Apex cannon, or APX cannon. You carry 52 rounds of ammunition in total, but I wouldn't really recommend that, with an automatic loader of 6.7 seconds. The turret muzzle contains 7 rounds of ammunition. This is your first stage ammunition rack. And for your vertical guidance characteristics, we have 6 degrees of gun depression and 11 degrees of gun elevation. So the standard downsides of an oscillating turret. Also due to the oscillating turret, this gun is not stabilized. So at 7.3, especially if you're going up against something like a Centurion, you are going to have quite a big downside, to be honest. While the tank is a lot more mobile than something like a Centurion, being able to fire accurately on the move is much more meta, to be honest. I prefer a Centurion's gun over this gun. But when you come on to the ammunition, I'd say that this gun is a little bit more lethal. But obviously you cannot fire on the move. So taking a look at the reloading skill in the crew section, we can see that we do have a 6.7 reload time no matter what your crew level is. So this is one of those tanks which you could use in a stock crew if you're not a veteran player and you don't really have any high level crews. This tank isn't going to suffer as much as something like a manual loaded vehicle. But onto the ammunition, where this tank really does show its true colours. And unfortunately your stock grind is going to be a little bit of a grind. The first round you have access to is the T-33 shot. This is an armor piercing ballistic cap shell. So it's pretty decent at long range, but it's going to be pretty awful against angled opponents. You do not have that soft steel cap, which you are commonly find on APC BC rounds. Well, this is an AP BC. It has 200mm of penetration at point blank range, which does drop off not too much, but it's still not really going to do that much damage. It also doesn't have any explosive filler, which again is a big letdown. Same for our other stock shell, the M71A1. It's a high explosive shell with just under 1 kilo of TNT, giving it 13mm of penetration at all ranges and angles. Not really useful in my opinion though. When you do have the tank fully unlocked, the only shell that you should take into battle is the M82 shot. This is an APC BC round, or an armor piercing capped ballistic cap shell, so it doesn't have the same problem as the earlier T-33. It actually gives you pretty decent penetration against angled armor, but not only that, we do also have an explosive filler, nearly 140 grams of TNT. This is the same round found on many American tanks that are fired out of 90mm guns, and it's basically a one-shot kill if this round manages to penetrate. It's got a lot of explosive damage when it actually goes through a tank's armor, not just the spalling but also the explosive fragments as well. This round of ammunition was added last year I believe, but I never really did a video on it, and it has significantly increased it's become a lot more meta really. You were quite disadvantaged with the old French lineup because you didn't have any explosive filler rounds, which mean you kind of had to bump quite a lot of shells into a target to kill it. But with the M82, one shot is pretty much the standard. So big help in my opinion. It has really increased the French 7.3 lineup with this tank. And with the repair costs all coming down last year, it's actually quite economical to play the French now. But anyway lads, you've probably guessed from this video, I do actually like the Char-25T. Despite being a little bit off the meta in terms of not having a stabilized gun and having pretty not really that good armor, to be honest, it's still quite fun to use. That M82 shell has done a massive amount for the actual performance of the vehicle itself. I'd say that this tank is far more lethal than something like the Sunwar, just because of that M82 round, to be honest. You can basically just guarantee if a center of mass shot penetrates, it's basically a one-shot kill. It's been quite nice coming back to the French tech tree, to be honest. I kind of left it. I unlocked the clerks and they just said, screw this, it's not really that fun. But coming back to it, it's been a lot of fun. I actually quite enjoy the French now, especially with the F4U7 getting a massive buff recently. It's got a very good French 7.3 lineup now. Obviously, as an Englishman, it does pain me to say this, but the French tech tree is actually worth grinding at the minute. Especially with the AMX50 in the current battle pass. That should be a very nice premium when you unlock it. It's something I'm looking forward to getting. So yeah, I think you should unlock this tank. You don't have to buy it, it's just a tech tree vehicle. It's fun, it's fast, high power gun. The only downside, it's not stabilized. And if you've played the French tech tree, you do feel like a connoisseur, kind of like playing the British tech tree. You kind of just feel superior to everyone else. You're not one of those stinky German mains that holds W and gets spawn killed every match. So yeah, take a little bit of a risk, invest in the French tech tree, grind your way up to the Char-25T, and you're going to have a lot of fun. Anyway lads, I hope this video didn't bore you too much. Kind of got a little bit waffle in there. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Leave a comment down below to tell me what vehicle you'd like me to review next. If you have any tips for improving the channel, please feel free to also leave a comment. Again, big thank you to my sponsor Godzilla. It's quite a lucky catch there. And as always lads, thank you very much for watching.